think you all pretty much got the information that was sent and forwarded to you regarding what's known as the Rocky Ledge area, which comprises Rocky Ledge Drive, Margo Lane, Woodland Drive, Happy Acres, and some possible more. It's a unique situation. It is under the deep mitigation compliance area because there's a lots were never really designed to handle septic and wells on the same location, too small. I think somewhere in the area, how to correct me, 30% of the wells that were tested showed some pollution from chloroform, which is really sweet. So you have, basically the town has two options in this area. You can sewer it, or you can put public water on it. And if you put public water on it, everybody will have to hook up to it. The wells will be abandoned and the lots become big enough to put the correct size system on it. There are really no, I think there's only one failing system up there when you walk the whole area. So it's not like it's more of a well and groundwater quality of life issue than it is really a system failure at this point. So in looking at, spent some time with water pollution control and CDM, people were over the costs and looking at the options. As I said, you can go two different ways. One is to go public water supply, which is what we're proposing that the town consider doing, which is what those engineering costs are for, $111,000. Just to give you rough estimates, about $4.5 million to put the water mains in. Put the sewers in the same area is about $6.5 million, $6 million. The issue we have with putting the sewers there is we don't know where they're going. So you're going to have to pump it somewhere, and you're going to have to go to a site, it's going to have to be treated, and you got to, even though that site will act as another collection, you're still going to have to build that at the same time, put that in. The other issue with the sewers, quite frankly, is you want them. In other words, you maintain them forever. If you have pump stations involved, piping involved, you'll really have to, at some point, establish a part of the DPW or a sewer department to handle all that in the future. But the long term is you own it forever, you have to maintain it forever. The advantage to the water main, quite frankly, is that you put it in the ground, and then when everything's all set, you go like this, and the water company, even though they get the revenue, they'll take it over, but you don't have any infrastructure responsibility after that. There are several ways. We've applied for a steep grant. Department of Health Services has given us a guaranteed loan, I think, Hal, 2%?
What did you say? A loan?
Guaranteed loan, Department of Health Services.
For how much?
2% Hal, Department, 2%.
How much would be the grant?
I think it was $2 million at least. Yeah. I think it's whatever they'll give you when you go through the process. The steep grant is $500,000. The Department of Health Service could possibly become part grant and then part loan at that point in time. The water company, we have not really approached because the water company's not going to give you anything until they're assured of how many customers you're going to have hooked up to the line. And then at that point, they may be able to grant you some funding towards this. This is really become their property in the process. They will provide, reason the design services are lower because they'll provide all the pipe design, gate valve design, tight design, and all this stuff that's going on.
For free?
Well, it's, you're paying for it one way or another, but they're going to give us that design.
I'm under the impression from reading some of this that each homeowner is having to pay.
No, I don't know where you got that impression. It wasn't on there.
Payroll hookup.
Yeah, there was a discussion of whether, who's going to pay for the hookup and how that's going to be balanced. But that's a decision, that's not the WPCC's decision. It's the Board of Selectmen's decision. It's an administrative decision. Before we get into that, let me just finish. What this system will do is when you have everything in the ground, the water shutoffs will be on the residential property. From that point out to the house, it is a topic of discussion, but it's not really the WPCC's discussion, it's not really the Public Works discussion, it's not really anybody's discussion other than the Board of Selectmen. It's an administrative decision, a policy decision that the town's gonna have to make. And in the process of making that decision, they're gonna have to balance that against what decisions they're gonna make in the future when they put the sewers in the road. Because you're gonna have that same quantity when you get to that point.
Does that decision require a decision regarding financing?
Not right now, it will require it in 7 to 8 months when you put the budget together. We're gonna engineer it and include those costs. As, we'll give you an alternate cost as to what it's gonna cost to pick up each house.
So those additional costs that we're discussing right now are the private property owners' hookup costs?
Correct. Whether or not the town is gonna partially fund them in total as part of the package, or they're gonna make the homeowner totally responsible.
You want to finish first before we ask you questions, or can we ask questions?
You can ask questions.
Go ahead, Jim.
Well, one, if we were ever to fund, we would never fund private hookup of water, I think.
Well, I've said that.
That's-
I'm not in the middle of it.
I believe what you do is you try to finance things.
You
If
can
you could finance it,
it.
put liens against house and things of that nature, but no way.
Well, the steep grant was mentioned as part of using that grant to help partially.
What we're using steep grant to pay.
I'm just saying what this said, John. Yeah.
Okay, so, it can't pay forever.
That's your opinion, but it's not, it has nothing to affect what I'm asking.
Well, if it paid for everything, I wouldn't have a concern.
Well, I'm saying, it's not part of what I'm proposing to provide that.
But
I'm
my,
going to give you a cost for it.
a major concern, and again, just that if we can't guarantee people to hook up, then, I don't know why I put a water main through.
Again, it's an administrative decision that has to be carried out by the administrative end branch of the government. You're going to have to either put sewers or put a water main in. You can put sewers in, you're going to have the same problem. Are you going to make them hook up or not? It's not the Water Pollution Control's job to tell somebody to hook up to water. I'm assuming that the Board of Selectmen, through the administrative process of the town government, will make it enforceable that people have to hook up to the system.
That was the reason for that 25,000 legal fees to write policy.
Yeah, it's not something that
That's eminent domain.
this project's gonna do. We can't force people to hook up. As
Why
the
would
water, huh?
Why wouldn't they have?
No, I'm saying the Water Pollution
Well,
Control
yeah.
Department of,
No.
well, I agree, but.
Well, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Okay, so we put the sewer lines in. Are the WPCC
water
still
lines.
responsible?
Yeah.
Is the WPCC still responsible to make sure the septic systems work, and when the septic systems aren't working?
Well, then there's
the water lines
room
in?
to then, because you're not using a well anymore.
Well, direct to WPC and,
Well, I've been doing the whole thing right along.
Well,
The
this-
issue is to make the lot compliant to build or renovate septic systems. The only way to do that is to make sure they have public water and not operating off a well. So, as a Department of Public Works, at the request of WPCC, we did go up there and do a series of test pits throughout the neighborhood. There are basements throughout the neighborhood. It appears every lot we tested had good land on it. The only issue was the distance between the well water and where the septic would have to go is not code compliant. It never will be code compliant.
But this report does say that 46 properties, 38% of the total of 120, current septic systems do not or likely do not comply, and that they have no idea the total number. So,
Comply with the current code, no.
well, that's the whole, this,
Well, half the
this
town- half the
administrate-
town doesn't comply with it.
right, but this body, the Water Pollution
Yep.
Control, is in effect trying to improve wastewater pollution, not improve drinking water
No.
to areas of town.
That's correct.
And if you have failing septic system, your groundwater is being polluted. So it's very nice to provide drinking water from Connecticut Water Company, private company making profit, but it also does not resolve the other underlying
It does, because it allows you to put a code compliant system on the lot.
on the expense of those homeowners.
They're gonna, but you're either gonna have to pay, there's no
Right.
winner here.
Right, I know. I'm
It's
just-
actually cheaper for them in the long run, but
John, go ahead.
I still believe there's a way, and I tell you, I feel a lot better bullying that money going towards something to have assurances that what we're gonna do is put a financing plan in place, turn around, finance it, but put liens against the houses. I mean, probably a lot of us don't wanna put the money out, but we want at least a guarantee that if someone's not gonna hook up, we hook them up to the water and we put a lien against the house for that amount with some reasonable kind of interest payments.
And the issue I have is, I can't tell you how much the system's gonna cost until it's engineered. In other words, I can't even give you a budget until we engineer it.
Well, I'm not talking about the water main, I'm talking about the connections to the house.
Either that, I can't give you a budget until the system's
Well, we
engineered.
don't know who's got how much ledge, how much blast. and-
Well, I mean, you can come up with a probable expense, and you can come up with, you know, if the town's gonna do that, then what the town will do, it'll put it out to bid for the homeowners, and they'll have an option to pick 2 or 3 different contractors that the town's approved to do the work. Not that the town pays for it, but the town will make sure the work is done in a compliant way.
And
So
also-
there is no way to really, you can make, it's like Owen asked, I think asked the question, well, is this many board testing sufficient? Well, I can tell you when I put the addition on the firehouse over there, I put 14 board testings where the addition is. I got a report of 1 glancing blow off of something up in the right-hand corner, and then $15,000 later in blasting, we were able to put the addition on. The board test was, you know, big boulders.
But in my defense, that wasn't called Rocky Ledge.
Well, yeah, but you know, like I said, we've done test pits up there, we've done
Right.
everything around there. I mean, you're gonna find rock no matter where you go in Connecticut.
Right. And we have
It's
high
nothing
water
but a big
table.
glacier tilt, so.
So the reality is, somewhere down the road in 16, 17, a decision will be made by the Board of Selectmen to bond out between $4 and $6.5 million.
Yeah. But you'll have to have all those other decisions made before you do that.
Right.
Like how much the Connecticut Water Company will be participating.
Right. So all of the, but those are costly, part of that is this. Right. This isn't all of it though, is it?
No, this is just that section of 120 homes.
Right.
Can I just internalize, it's just the timing right now, because we're in the process of a budget, and this isn't not in anybody's budget.
But if you want to put engineering in the budgets, tell me now, I'm gonna tell you to increase your budget by $500,000 next year. Because projects don't fall with the budget cycle.
And this isn't in anybody's CEC.
No.
Either. So what, this is just like for them to run around the budget, because if we approved 111, then it goes to town meeting, 15, 20 people will either approve it or just decline it. So
The
that's-
problem you have traditionally, you know.
Just the timing, but I think this saves us money in the long run.
If you want to change the rules of the ballgame after 25 years of doing this, then you're changing the rules, that's fine. But then it's incumbent that you notify people that you're changing the rules. Like I said, if you're worried about the end run around the budget, add $500,000 to your CEC for engineering. And I'm not being facetious, I'm just telling you, that's what's coming down the pike.
I think it's how it should be.
You know, so you either have to fund it through the budget process, or you have to fund it a different way, or you have to borrow. It's a project you're gonna borrow money against, that you could borrow the money back and return it to the undesignated fund balance at the end of the day.
But having said that, this would save the town in the long run a lot of money,
Oh,
because we're going to have to hire people to run a sewage treatment plant.
yeah, the water main is the most economical way to go.
When would you need this money by, though, is my next question.
Whenever you wanna give it to me.
So it could be a few months away.
So the longer you ask for it, the longer you delay. I mean, you have to show, let's face it, you know, you've been fooling around with the sewers for 25 years since I've been in
Since I
town.
moved in town, I moved 44
Yeah,
years
so,
ago.
you know, you have to begin to show some type of effort towards mitigation. And this will be recognized as an effort to mitigate problems in town.
I have a concern that we do this, and then what we do is get the word, because it's rocky ledge, that all the septic systems up there are failing anyhow, and then we have to put sewers in.
No.
Which meant that, well, we would put a sewer system in, we didn't have to do the water, but we're doing the water, so we don't have to do the
Like
sewer.
I said to you, the
So
sewer systems aren't failing up there currently, they've been up there for years. And once again, we've done some test bits, but you could dig in a house on Willow Lane, that's the same problem.
What 20% of it? What was 20% fail? What do we do then?
Well, what are you gonna do when 20% of them fail up on Willow Lane? You're
Yeah,
gonna put sewers in, you got public water in, right? I mean, but you may not be able to get a septic on the lot, no matter what you do.
But the reason we're doing a water main is for one reason, is so that we don't have to put sewers in there. My concern is that, one is that, you know, how you're gonna pay for it and insure, because the water company will turn around and probably pick up a pretty good chunk of the water main if we say you're gonna have 120 customers. But if we can't guarantee them any customers, they're gonna say, hey, you put it in, you got to pay.
Again,
And
all I'm here to tell you is, in order to budget this out and figure out what it's gonna cost you to do, you're gonna have to spend the money. Whether you spend it tomorrow, or you spend it next year, or spend it the year after, you're gonna have to spend the money.
This needs to go to referendum.
I don't know what it is.
I mean, not referendum.
Town meeting.
Town meeting,
Yes.
But I don't know what the point is, because regardless of how you deal with the public, on that end of it, you still gotta put the water main and sewers into the air. Either or. So, your personal opinion about how people, who's gonna be, you relay that to the people who make that decision. It's not, my thing is to come in and tell you, in order to budget this, and we'll give you line item by line item budget, in order to figure out what this is gonna cost, and then start to seek funding from the water company and start to do all those things. I have to have something to tell them what the cost is.
It'd be curious to find out that, you know, was there any additions or building or any of that stuff happened that went, you know, where it was okay when they were in violation of the 75-foot rule on the wells?
No, the well's got the distance between the septic, nothing to do with the house.
I understand that, but here's the problem. When you allow people to build bigger houses and that they were in violation then, they should never got a permit. But that's my opinion. I think there's been a lot of that happening in the town.
I don't know.
And you
Because
know
we've got a
what?
lot
It
of-
doesn't change anything that I'm here for.
Right, even if you have town water, you can be forced to hook
Yeah.
up to sewer systems, which in 3/4 of the town, they're recommending that we do to have off-site solutions, because the groundwater is not.
Well, they're not recommended.
The big broad picture is, what?
Yeah, it's not even worth 3/4, it's less than about 25%.
Okay, all right, well,
Well, I mean, before we throw out a whole bunch of
right,
stuff,
right, but again, this report that we're voting on, this amendment 10, says that 46 properties, current septic systems do not or not likely comply, and they think there's more. So this is a huge cost that is a
what they
question
mean
mark.
by comply, what you mean by comply, are two different things.
Code compliant to.
Well, I don't
what
think
the
there's, I
water
would say
pollution
that, I would say
control is.
that night on Rocky Ledge, I don't think there's a code compliance system on there because of the wells.
Then how do you?
Same thing with Margo Lane. Code compliant means, doesn't mean it's failing if it's not code compliant. Don't equate code compliant with failure. It's two different things. Code compliant means that the current code in the state of Connecticut requires a separation of distance between your well and between your septic and your fields. And all your, just let me finish, all your underground. You can live with it as long as it exists, but you cannot repair and still not meet, then you're out of code compliant, and you can't repair the system at that
Right.
point. Okay.
This mandate is to clean groundwater. I agree with you, Pete. I think we have to do this study. I'm not arguing that. I'm arguing the timing, and I'm saying that these people need to know
It's not a
what's
study, it's
coming
an-
down,
it's an-
and will the entire town want to pay for it? That's what I'm saying.
Well, you're opening up a huge can of worms, my friend. You have to, we'll come back with the proposal for sewers at 7
No,
or 8.
I agree that we need to do the study. I'm agreeing with
It's
you.
not a study, it's an engineering.
The
It gives you-
engineering,
The study's already
the
been done.
accepting of this 111,000 for the design and professional services for amendment 10.
Like I said, you don't have to give it to them.
Hey, Ken, I have a question. This would have to come out of our unassigned fund balance.
Right,
What is that percentage right now of,
percentages between 13 and 14.
and to keep our rating, we'd have to be at least over 10, correct?
Correct.
I hate to hit the unassigned fund balance, that's where we'd have to come from.
Well, then again, you better budget next year, you better add $500,000 in engineering, because you got bridge work, you got all kinds of stuff coming in.
Well, they have it in the CEC next year, $1,500,000 anyway.
For what?
Fund,
That's
You
the
don't have
land acquisition.
$500,000 worth of engineering.
no, but
That's the land acquisition.
That's the way that,
it doesn't say,
there's
it
nothing
says,
for
oh, land acquisition.
WPCC.
But they don't use it for land acquisition.
Well, I think we have a lot of bonding coming down the road. I mean, we've got roofing, How many roofs are there? 3? For like $4.5 million?
You got $8 million for bridge work.
$8 million worth of bridge
Well,
work. Half of it's paid by the state and the rest is us, right?
A little bit more than half by the time that federal 80% states.
Okay, so we're.
But the engineering alone for that, right?
Yeah.
You're gonna have to figure out a way to run projects, because you can run them through operating, but I don't know how you're gonna get it passed. So either you're gonna have to figure out a way to run them, or you can try to put it in the budget. I'm not opposed to that. I just don't know at the end of the day. I can tell you right now that I have one engineering proposal for state. The state's not saying, hey, do this when you want to do this. Believe me. They're not going to come in and say, okay, that's okay. Eventually Mr. Farmer's going to have to pretty much sign the same type of decree you sign with the septic system. In other words, it's you either fix the bridge or you close the bridge. The state really isn't concerned about which way you do it. So you're going to have to figure out a way, and this all comes back to, I'm going to go back years and years and years, failure to fund infrastructure.
So I guess under this kind of a scenario, if an on-site solution was possible, we can't go with that because we can't guarantee that the homeowner is going to pay.
You can't do an on-site solution because you have a well on the
The
property.
well and the septic are too
You can't have it.
Yeah, but-
You can't do both.
Well, it says 75 feet on it.
Yeah, but those lots are, you ever see those lots? They're not-
tiny.
There's no way to make them code compliant.
If the board of selectmen made the decision immediately that, if a water main was going to be put up there, that all of the people had to hook up to it, would that change the conversation with the water company?
Yes.
Okay. And is there anything that's preventing them from doing that?
Well, I don't think they've thought about that, to be honest with you. I mean, I don't think anybody's thought about that with the sewers. I think Bruce has talked about it. He was part of that process, but
We recognize.
it's new.
Through the chair, there are many legal issues to be worked out before you can force 120 people to hook up to the public water. It doesn't mean that you can't do it, but it's a process that you have to go through. And we would certainly encourage that for a lot of reasons, including the water company paying for a lot more of the cost.
But based on that answer, come back to the sewers. So if they don't hook up, you're not in compliance, and they say you have to have sewers. If people won't do it, or if we don't pay for it, then they're gonna say you have to have sewers. So unless we grasp with somehow or another, they gotta hook up. If they don't hook up, we gotta have sewers.
I think everybody gets your message, but as Bruce says, there's a lot of work. Yes, the town is going to ultimately have the authority to order people to hook up. But it's not something they can do by taking a vote in the board of selectmen.
Correct.
Well, listen, I mean, the board can also consider eminent domain, 150 houses at 200,000 a piece, it's $3 million, not 4.5.
No, it's not. Your multiplication's a tad off.
Okay, maybe it's 30.
Yeah, maybe that's more like it.
But anyhow, I mean.
It's more like 45, but that's okay.
Yeah, I'm just trying to, if I have a house up there and I have a well that is absolutely not contaminated,
Yep.
and I have great drinking water, I mean, I don't see the great incentive for me hooking up to the water.
Again, it's not, you're bringing up a discussion that has, and as much as I'll say this again, I still have to come up with a budget to do the project. And it's going to take 7 to 8 months to come up with that budget with this engineering money. In that budget will be included the option to whatever the board of selectmen come up with dealing with how the water is going to be hooked up. But again, it's all for, you can sit here and discuss it all you want, but until we move forward and try to do something, I wouldn't make any decisions.
Okay, so we approved the study.
Yeah,
Engineering
it's
study.
an engineering.
And what
It's not a study.
engineering study, the
Not a study.
design study, professional services for amendment
All right.
10 to C. M. Smith. At what point do those homeowners get involved in this conversation?
They've been partially involved already through
120
WPCC,
parcels.
but there'll be public meetings on it.
There'll be public meetings and workshops.
Workshop, you gotta have, it. There's no, half the engineers do it.
What do they say when you talk to them, some of the owners?
There are mixed feelings. A lot of people say, we're very happy that you can do something, and others say, I'm fine the way I am. We've had one public group where we had probably 50 people came, where we discussed it with them. We said, once we start the program, we'll get back to you and we'll review it with you and keep you on top of it.
You're talking specifically about Rocky Ledge?
You know,
Yes.
No, the
area.
120
The whole
parcels.
area.
Woodland, Happy Acres, Woodland
Okay.
Drive,
Margo Lane.
Oak Ridge, Margo.
I mean, these properties range in price. There was a foreclosure for 99,000 or 90,000.
That was a house that had dead animals in the backyard.
Right,
dead
it was a
animals in the house.
foreclosure, and they range up to 250. They're not $1 million houses,
No.
they're $500,000 houses. They're,
It strikes me that when you're talking about this kind of, about water and public safety, I think of Flint,
I
Michigan.
know.
And doing the wrong thing here could have consequences, it could be much greater. The problem, I think, is I'm not sure I like the sequence. This looks to me like a very big windfall for the water company. I've done some homework on the company, and they have 123,000 customers. 80% of those customers are residential. The residential income from the average customer is about $550 a year. So for this area, that'd be about $63,000 a year in income for the water company. Water company's market cap is a modest $160 million, about $3,000 per customer. So this would, in essence, have a value of the company of $444,000. And we're paying, so far it looks like we're paying for just about everything because of the sequence in which we're doing things. I would rather spend the money on the attorneys to get some specificity that we are going to be able to get these people to sign up, and then talk to the water company about what they're going to invest in this, and try to get as much out of the water company as we can. The way we're going about this is kind of backwards, and as a result, we're paying the full amount.
So but you're not paying anything. All you're paying for is a partial cost of the engineering, the water company's picking up the other part of the engineering.
I thought you said they weren't at this point. I thought-
No, they're gonna contribute all the pipe, gate, all the hydrant designs and all that stuff.
So what's their contribution?
Well, that's right now just the engineering part. They're doing about, a normal project of this magnitude would generally be 10% of the proposed budget, which would be 400,000. You know, somewhere in that area. We're looking at 100-something thousand because the water companies is pitching in on the design of the pipe because it is going to be their system, and they want to make sure whatever specified meets the public water drinking.
So we're putting in $111,000. How much are they putting in?
I would guess that their work that they're putting in value-wise exceeds what we're putting into this.
You're guessing. You don't know.
I would say that since if they're designing all the piping, all the underground, all the connections, the wall valve, gate valves, and all the type of pipe and all that stuff, I would guess that it's at least equal to what we're doing now.
Am I the only one here who would like to know what that number is?
well, I would like to know if it's in writing. Bruce, is this in writing for them, this commitment?
I think we mentioned it in the paperwork.
Well, yeah, it says that they will participate.
They will what?
Participate.
It says that
How was it,
the
with all
last
the piping,
paragraph
all the...
says, Connecticut Water Company will ultimately own and maintain the water main advancement.
They said that they would like to contribute to this project. They took it to their vice president of the water company. He agreed it would, just the amount, we don't know.
Yes, this says specifically they have pledged some financial
Yes.
support,
Yes.
some.
But on the engineering, they're going to supply all the engineering for the pipe. Because
Is
it's
that
their
in
pipe.
writing?
Huh?
Is that in writing?
They have to, it's their piping. We're not gonna put piping in the ground that they don't.
They'll engineer it, but we gotta pay for it.
Yeah,
So the thing is if I'm gonna do this job, I'm gonna charge you for the job. So I'm gonna pay for the engineering, but I'll charge you for the job.
but
And
that's not what we're, again, you're,
You don't think I'm gonna charge you?
you're 4 steps ahead of where we're supposed to be.
Okay,
I want to know if they were gonna contribute anything to the engineering. They're gonna give you the pipe designs. They're gonna do all the hydrant design. That's it. All I'm talking about tonight is trying to get something together where you can go after the water company, Because you can't go out there and say, well, we want you to pay part of this project, they're gonna go, well, how much is the project, what's your budget? What are you doing in the project, what's going in the ground, where's it going? What are you gonna tell them? You're gonna go like this, well, we don't have that, and they're gonna say, well, when you have that, come talk. So, it may look like the cart before the horse, but you'll never get the horse hooked up to the cart if you don't do this part first. And then you have something to go talk to the water company about.
Okay, this is, who's gonna do, CDM's gonna do the study, CDM's?
Yes, it's gonna be supervised by the,
It's not a study, it's engineering.
it's engineering, yes, but that's true.
Well, it's not yet, I'm waiting for them.
Well, that's a question, I didn't know the question.
Oh, I thought you wrote it.
No, I like.
Okay, so the engineering, is there any more questions on the,
Is road construction costs included?
What?
Road construction,
It
reconstruction.
will be included because there's no way to trench cut those roads and then put it back together.
Can we look at the gas also, because there's
I have talked to the
gas
gas
build
company.
out, we can get them to pay for a big piece of this, they want to do build out? No? I mean,
I've already talked to the gas company.
I think we funded some of this stuff in the state for them to do gas build
Yeah,
out.
no, everything built out, so I meet with them every year, go through where we're constructing and where we're doing road reconstruction and where we're paving, and they have no interest in what we're doing this year.
Just one final concrete. I mean, I understand we're doing engineering, and we've done a lot of, I guess, engineering and study, and whether it be the sewer, the water, and everything else. I don't know how much money we spent over the last 10 years. Is it 10 years?
Oh, about 3 or 4 million.
1970 was when it all
Sure.
started.
My mother was in
Well,
office.
if we were smart, we would have done like Greenwich, Stanford, Norwalk. We had the sewers back when the state feds paid for the whole thing.
That's right,
95, and 90?
92%, but we didn't.
1970,
I should
my
have.
mother was in office.
this
Town turned it down.
So,
You can't turn the clock
I
back.
understand.
Okay, I think we,
You beat this to
yes,
death?
and I beat it to death. Does anybody want to make a motion?
Can I ask Janet, if we approve this, what does it do to our line items? Our deficit? Pops it by 112,000?
This would not go into the operating, this would go into the capital.
Going to
We
capital?
just drop our percentage.
It would drop to your reserve, to your undesignated fund balance.
And
Yeah, we
what
have-
would your opinion be of doing that at the start of the fiscal year as opposed to right now at the end of the fiscal year?
And that's your decisions.
That's a good question.
Does it look better?
Does it look better if we do it in the beginning of the fiscal year?
Yeah.
No, I don't think there's much of a difference if we do it now or do it later.
Clearly, your balance sheet will be $111,000 worse
Right,
at the end of this fiscal.
right.
That's, some, in some
That's enough.
But you would just be pushing it off into next year.
I understand that, but
But, it's about optics and reporting. I mean,
And it's also about the opinions of the taxpayers who will be voting on $111,000 expenditure now and then in a few weeks on
well, that's the other part.
budget.
Right, you go to a town meeting right after the budget.
Yeah.
I know people are gonna come in and say, wait a minute, why didn't you put it in your,
Right, why didn't you put it in?
let's vote on
That's
it.
the issue.
I'm gonna make a motion or you go after.
We do it every
You
year.
go after, you're gonna ask them why you didn't put it in town meeting.
It is.
Why you didn't put it in the budget. You go before, you can say, can't wait.
Very bad habit.
At least you're being honest, they may vote it down and tell you to put it in the budget at that point. But if you go after you have the public hearing on the budget, and I've been there where people have gotten yelled at because you just approved the budget, now you're coming 2 weeks later and asking for $110,000 out of budget.
That's the issue.
You're better off doing it before you have the public hearing on the budget and get it over with, and then let everybody yell at you then.
Well, you're better off putting it in the budget so it's in the referendum.
Yeah, you could do that too, but but again, don't just put that though. Because we're gonna have the same argument when I come in and tell you the bridge study, when I come in and tell you all the other stuff that you're gonna have to do. And the issue I have with all this is, I keep hearing about an infrastructure committee, and I keep hearing hold off and do all that, I've been waiting patiently. But again, if you're gonna change the way you fund projects, you need to come up with a plan to fund them.
But engineering costs can be bundled too.
Yes, they can. That's why I said you can do this and do short-term borrow on it, you can do anything you want.
Right.
If you pay back when the bond is issued.
Right.
Well, the only thing about the referendum though is that sometimes people want to defeat things and they look for a good reason to rally some troops, this would be one that you could rile some people up, especially based on what we just had here as a discussion.
Well, you just put in $900 and something thousand in.
986.
Yeah, 986 in revenue. And
Yeah, but there's the other cost that goes beyond the engineering, is who's gonna pay for all those mains to be hooked up. That's a big number.
That's next year, I guess.
Well, that's a policy decision.
I can't,
We
that's not,
can't make those decisions.
all I can say is give you an estimation as to what it's gonna cost. How you pay, I told you before, you still have to borrow the money, how you pay for it?
Yeah.
If you put a lien on their houses and you collect it over 20 years, you still have to borrow the money as a town.
I understand.
So we just put 980 to 6 months revenue. Do I hear a motion?
I'm prepared to make a motion to move to accept a figure not to exceed $111,499.50 for design and study and professional services for Amendment 10
490.
to pay CDM Smith Incorporated. The monies to come from the general fund and go to public hearing.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any more discussion?
When,
All in favor?
Well, when, excuse me, when the discussion, that was the question. When would the public hearing be?
April
The town
13th.
meeting, you mean?
Town meeting.
Town meeting.
Mary would have to say that, she knows.
It has to be posted the weeks before. I have to check the calendar. In a couple of weeks, 2 weeks?
And
I
when
think you
is
said the 30th when we looked at it, the other one. for the
public
sidewalks.
hearing for the
budget?
for the budget is,
Say that again?
One has nothing to do with the other.
Well, I know, but when we're asking the timing of these two events.
When's the budget? April
The
13th?
public hearing is April 13th.
A month after.
And this public hearing would be,
30th.
It's 30th or somewhere in that area.
Town meeting, you mean?
town meeting, excuse me, public hearing. Interchangeable.
It all depends on when I can get the notice of the paper. It has to be published a week
And if it
before.
gets published correctly.
Yeah. Possibly the 30th. I don't
But
want to
as
say
more of the
definitely.
sidewalks go at the same time, right?
Yes, they are.
sidewalks the same
Sidewalks
time.
are
Another
April.
28,000.
No, remember a while ago, you approved
Yeah.
the funding to do the study on the sidewalks? We had one at town meeting that was waiting for this to do
At town
together.
meeting.
Got it.
So that amount is how much?
28,000.
That wasn't taken out of fund balance, that was just transferring within capital.
Just never done 2 weeks ago.
Okay,
And the,
all in favor?
Is that three? I didn't hear the
Thank
ayes.
you.
We didn't ask
Any
you, I don't know.
opposed?
We're not killing
Any opposed? So 5 ayes, 1 opposed.
Who opposed?
Who opposed?